government elections will be held on the 1st of November. The date will be proclaimed on the 20th of September. It will be after the final voter registration weekend. We're joined now by the Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Deputy Minister Obed Bapela. Mr. Bapela, good evening to you, and thank you so much for your time. I was noting in the address or the speech given by the Minister this afternoon that the date of the 1st of November was selected on the basis that it was the very latest that this election could be held. And the reason she gave for that is that the IEC needed as much and needs as much time as is possible to get itself ready for this election. What is the state of affairs with the IEC?
Well, as is the case, and the IEC must practically be ready. They've been saying that they are ready, but because they had dependent on the Constitutional Court outcome favoring them, and unfortunately it was not be, and they have to do everything else to make sure, therefore, that they have a weekend registration of all voters, which have already indicated 18 and 19 of September. They need to prepare the ballot, the voters' roll thereafter, so that then the right people on the voters' roll across the 4,000 wards plus across the country, so that when voters arrive on the day, their names are there on the voters' roll, and it's correctly spelled and an ID is correct, so that there are no faults on election day itself. And it means, therefore, also they needed every little day and hour. And then I'm with the court saying the elections can be held between the 27th of October and the 1st of November. The 4 days available immediately after the 27 days, they will be very key. It means also that some of the days are going to be used as election day, what we call the special votes, which usually those votes are given 2 days for those with special needs, the old aged, and others to vote. And then that leaves only the weekend, which is Saturday and Sunday, for special votes. And on the 1st of November, then to have those elections. So therefore, the time is very limited, but they ought to do their best so that the elections are fair and free, and they're also as credible.
I'll come to the issue of the special votes in a moment. So as far as COCTA is concerned and the deliberations that you've been having with the IEC, are you saying that by and large there is a perception that the IEC was banking on the fact that the Constitutional Court would rule in its favor, and therefore they may have been lax and have been lax in their own state of readiness and preparedness for this election?
Well, I don't think that much. They knew that when you go to court, you either win or lose. And that has always been part of their plan. But they had hoped for more time. But also parties needed more space also for campaigning, because elections is when voters go in big numbers to the polling stations. And I will therefore say that I think in terms of their map, they are ready with the material. But remember, you have to print voters' roll. But before you print them, you need to clean them out. And then there was this voter weekend, which was not there, which we had hoped, therefore, that with the postponement, and then we were in lock level 4 at the time, and the weekend registration had to be postponed with the level 4 COVID regulations. And then with that, us going to level 3, then they can have that weekend. But they thought that definitely the court was going to be on their side, but it's not be like that. And therefore, they have to squeeze in a voters' weekend registration, which they are now going to be doing on the 18th, 19th. For those voters who are first-time voters to come in big numbers, but also those who have moved addresses, changed addresses, to also go there and then re-register themselves now in the new addresses where they are, and then so forth. Because in the past 5 years, people have been moving up and down, population has been growing, there are new voters that are now of age. And then that issue, that weekend registration, the court emphasized a lot, and we have to do it. And that leaves them with few days now to the election date.
Minister Bapela, again in your conversations with the IEC, they have continuously said publicly that they are ready to have elections and to hold elections whenever that might be, including the 27th of October. What you're saying to me tonight paints a very different picture.
Well, I'm not differing with them that they are ready, and I'm saying they are ready. The issue was, when are we going to have a weekend set aside for voter registration? That is very critical, I think. And then when the country was taken to level 5, that weekend registration, which was set aside in July, had to be postponed because the country was at level 4, sorry, not 5. And then with them losing a weekend of voter registration, that is the only issue and the challenge. But in terms of the material, the map of the voting stations, where these voting stations are going to be, the machines that are going to be scanning the IDs, and all other election material that you can think of, they are ready. But the weekend to register and then clean the voters' roll and ensure, therefore, that the voters' roll is the correct one. There are no disputes arising from political parties that our voters came and then they were not on the voters' roll. That space was what was lost as a result of the level 4. Now they have to squeeze it now in September 18 and 19. And by that time, immediately after that, they need then to prepare the voters' roll. That is the only instrument that is very key in any election, that voters are registered in the right, correct wards, VD stations, and that then when they arrive on the day of election, they can express their choices. And I think that is the challenge, and that's the only challenge that is I'm expressing, that they've been expressing, and the country wanted, all political parties want to see their voters on the voters' roll.
It's also one of the areas where historically the IEC has had weaknesses. If you'd recall, the case that ended up in the Constitutional Court over people's addresses, verification of addresses, this has been a matter of constitutional importance.
Definitely very, very important. And after the 19th, they will then be left with the 20th until the end of September and a few days in October. And obviously by Minister saying we'll proclaim the elections for the 1st of November, immediately after the voters' registration. It then gives them a bit of a briefer to really make sure that the right names, the correct addresses, and the correct IDs are in the voters' roll, because that is the major instrument for any elections to be declared free and fair, and for any elections to be credible.
Already it looks like we are going to have quite a number of disputes that arise from this election, not least among being which, the case that is before the Constitutional Court, papers filed by the Democratic Alliance to overturn the decision and to have it reviewed and set aside and declared unconstitutional. That is the decision to reopen the candidate registration process. Any particular view from the Department of Cooperative Governance on what the litigation in the midst of all of these processes that still need to be carried out, what the impact of that is?
Well, there's the right of every party to go to court on any matter that they are aggrieved on. However, in this instance, as COCTA, the proclamation that the minister did for the 27th of October, if you read the Constitutional Court judgment and the order, it says that proclamation is also set aside, means it's null and void. So whatever were the timetables of the registration of the candidates, it was done in the context of the proclamation that was set aside by the court. And we didn't go to court as COCTA to go and then fight it. The minister agreed that, let me agree with the court, and I'll do another proclamation, which is coming on the 20th of September, immediately after the weekend of voter registration. And that will then be the one that then opens up a new date as a new proclamation. That will then be the one that is legally, then that will then take us to the elections. Because the other one was set aside. But obviously, there might be other interpretations, But anyone is free to go to court, and we are correct in the path that we have taken. And if we have to defend in court, and if the minister is cited in court, you will then have to go and argue and say, it is based on this new regulation, because the other one was set aside.
Let's talk about the special votes. My understanding is that the IEC has put in a request, started a conversation with the Cooperative department. This is over the adding of an additional day for special votes to take place. And so what effectively that would mean is that there would be 3 days of special voting. Tell me about how much of that request is being considered right now.
Well, obviously, every elections have a special vote for those people who are in prison. Some might be in hospital at the time and not able to move to a voting station, or for those people who are working on the election, then the police, the nurses, and then also that then those services are not disrupted, and also for the old aged, those with disabilities, so that they don't crowd and queue the voting stations with everybody else. There will always be a catering of that in any election calendar. And obviously the IEC is requesting that we also have special dates, whether a day or two, they will then be submitting on the basis of the number of voter registration, those who are requesting. And already they've published that those who want to be on the special votes, please start applying, and those numbers will then determine whether it's 2 days or it's 1 day. So let's then see how people will be responding. But those who will be on duty, police and the army and everybody that are going to be the election workers themselves, the presiding officers and many others, then there will be quite a significant number of them that needs to really to register to vote even before everybody else comes to the polling stations.
So effectively you're saying that the number of days given to special votes will be determined by what the final voters' roll says in terms of those who are requesting that special vote?
Definitely, and also not just the voters' roll, but also in addition people requesting that we need to be registered on the data that caters for the special votes, so that then those special votes can then be also catered for in the election calendar.
As it stands, are we looking at a situation where the elections, the special voting will take place over the weekend going into the Monday, or will it take place during the business days of the previous week, i.e. the Thursday or the Friday? Have those details been worked out yet?
Well, most of the time, the parties have expressed that there shouldn't be a day in between special votes and then the election day. So it has been always paired in the country. So if they get 2 days, it will be Saturday and Sunday over a weekend, with the elections taking place on a Monday, so that those who are manning the stations, they are there for 3 days uninterrupted. They are there, the materials is there uninterrupted. The police and then everybody who's supposed to be guarding the stations, they are there uninterruptedly. And in that way, then we do not break election calendar, particularly the election days themselves. So it will be a flow of the 3 days or 2 days, depending on how many days the special votes will be.
Any particular impact that you as a department are anticipating that voting over a weekend will have on voter turnout right now?
It's the first time in the democratic dispensation that the elections have to fall over into the weekend and a Monday. It will be the first time, first experience. We obviously, when it's weekend, people are busy, it's month end, and I just hope their busy schedules when it's month end do not then interrupt in the number of the people that have to go and express their wish. And I hope this becomes a message by government to all citizens that are of voting age and those who have registered, who are now on the voters' roll. Please, we know you've got a lot to do when it's a month end, that you have so many busy things. And then please, the country needs you now. and you ought really to go and express your votes, even if it's a Saturday and Sunday for those who might be on special votes. But then on Monday, definitely also going in our bigger numbers to go and then express our voice.
Cooperative Governance Deputy Minister Obed Bapela, thank you for your time tonight.